What's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to get hit with the truth. So today, going to be discussing the what's next for for newly crowned and undefeated WBC featherweight champion Mark Magsayo from the Philippines after he scored a monster upset over Gary Russell Jr., winning a hard-fought 12-round majority decision on, I believe it was January 22nd as they main event at a Showtime card. Gary Russell came in the sizable favorite, but, you know, there were a lot of people with Gary Russell taking 2 years off that thought Magsayo could win. But Russell hinted around at something prior to the fight, stating that he was injured and he would only discuss it after the fight. So, you know, why he would mention that before a fight, to me, you know, doesn't look great, and I'll get to that in a minute. But Magsayo went in there and started early, just landing good hard shots and putting the pressure on Russell and forcing Russell to fight off his back foot, which Russell is used to, but he put the pressure on early to see what Russell was going to do. Now, by the third or fourth round, Russell stopped throwing his right jab. And, you know, Russell's a very good jabber, but he wasn't throwing his right jab. He later cited an injury, and he just kind of was one punch at a time, but he really did get back into the fight in the middle rounds and had success. But it really became a pick your poison type fight that I talk about quite often. You had Magsayo, who was throwing more punches, and the aggressor in the fight, you know, against Russell, who was landing maybe the cleaner shots, but they weren't like, you know, big time effective shots. They weren't affecting Magsayo very much, to where Magsayo kept coming at him. But with Russell, as opposed to like a Stephen Fulton against Brandon Figueroa, Russell was not landing more than one shot at a time. And, you know, I think part of that had to do with his supposed injury. But Magsayo just kept pressing the action. He kept coming forward even through the shots that Russell was landing. So, again, it became a pick your poison type thing. And I thought it was rather close. And when it went to the scorecards, Magsayo took a what many people feel a deserving majority decision. But after the fight, Russell stated that he had been out of the ring a long time, or that he had sustained an injury that caused a tendon or a nerve in his arm, and that's why he couldn't throw his right jab, and that, you know, he would be back. But that, I don't want to take too much away from Mark Magsayo, but, you know, I do believe that Russell had to have been injured if he wasn't throwing the normal punches that he throws. And he still was successful. So, naturally, I'd like to see these two guys do it again. But congratulations to Mark Magsayo on that victory, man. Just a big win for him. And now the big question is, what's next for Mark Magsayo? And instead of normally running through the top 10 like I always do, I'm just going to give you the factual, you know, kind of options that have been thrown out there. And for one that was looming but not confirmed, the most likely option is Magsayo's probably going to have to make a mandatory defense against undefeated former 122-pound champion Ray Vargas. Now, people might wonder why Ray Vargas. Well, Vargas, the WBC has a distinction to a champion that is injured. If they've earned it enough to them, they call that guy the champion emeritus. And what that means is when you're injured or you decide to retire, like Vitaly Klitschko did years ago, you are allotted a number one shot at the title if you choose to come back. And Ray Vargas was granted that distinction because injury kept him out of the ring after his last title defense at 122 pounds back in, I believe it was July of 2019. So that kept him out of the ring right there. And then he went and did, and had he took 2.5 years off, but he had a guaranteed title shot that was ordered to happen against Gary Russell last year, but didn't. Now it's very likely, now that he's got a fight under his belt. He defeated Leonardo Baez in his PBC debut. He defeated him back in November on the Canelo undercard. Now he's lined up to fight Magsayo for the title, and that's a very good opponent. And, you know, Magsayo can only prove himself even more against a guy like Vargas, a former champ. He's undefeated. Doesn't punch as hard, you know, as Magsayo, but throws a lot of punches and can box as well. So I think Magsayo is most likely going to run into Ray Vargas next, but there's other options. You know, the PBC, Magsayo's a PBC guy, and there are PBC guys out there to fight. There's Eduardo Ramirez, you know, a rematch with Gary Russell Jr. There are other options that are PBC guys that would be possible to fight Magsayo, but the most likely is going to be Ray Vargas for the WBC title. And again, there's even Brandon Figueroa coming up to featherweight, most likely in his next fight. So just know that Magsayo does have some options, but he most likely is going to be ordered to fight Ray Vargas next for the WBC title. So that's what I got. That's what's next on the undefeated and newly crowned WBC featherweight champion of the world, Mark Magsayo of the Philippines. I hope you guys enjoyed this. True Boxing, you've been hit with the truth.